Hey there, want to play a little game? I've got the cuffs. Just make sure you don't die on me, okay? Here are 19 reasons to read Gerald's Game. Hi everyone, I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is the place where I'm going through all of Stephen King's works in chronological order and giving you 19 reasons to read each book. If that sounds like something you would want more of, then don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a video in the future. In this video, I am covering Gerald's Game, the first of two linked books from 1992, the second of which we will get to next time out. So if you're ready, let's lock those cuffs on and jump right in. As ever, there might be some spoilers ahead, but failing that, here are 19 reasons to read Gerald's Game. So this book marks the start of where King was really starting to flex his I'm not just a horror guy muscles. And it was also the start of him really starting to explore his feminist consciousness, which I suppose makes it no surprise that Gerald's Game was dedicated to his wife and her sisters. So as I mentioned in the intro, this one is linked to the second book King published in 1992, Dolores Claiborne. Both characters in both of those books find themselves in a traumatic situation during the same solar eclipse, and they are linked to each other for a few moments. Now actually, those two books were originally going to be part of the same book called In the Path of the Eclipse, before both of them ended up being spun out into their own novels. Now, in quite a few of the editions of Gerald's Game, you get a lovely map of Maine showing the path of the solar eclipse. Isn't that nice? Okay, let's get into the hook of this one. Our main character is Jessie Burlingame, trophy wife to the quite gross Gerald. Their marriage is fine, no kids, not particularly unhappy but not massively happy either, and somewhat lacking in a bit of spice and spark. That all changes when they realise that it's quite fun to do a bit of this sort of thing in the bedroom. Initially, Jessie quite likes being strapped to the bed while Gerald fucks her, but she sort of tires of it fairly quickly. In this story, we meet them in their lakeside cabin, and Gerald is strapping Jessie to the bed ready to play Gerald's Game. Only this time, Jessie decides she doesn't want it, and she makes it very clear to Gerald that she doesn't want it. He ignores her and proceeds to try and go about just raping her anyway while she's cuffed to the bed. She quite rightly kicks him in the balls. He has a massive heart attack, flops off the bed and dies, leaving Jessie in quite the sticky situation. What follows over the next couple of days is, well, we stick around with Jessie and watch her as thirst, hunger, exhaustion, hallucinations, and all kind of weird, crazy shit happens. And while she has to process a fuckload of trauma from across her life. It's a really small setting, a really claustrophobic setting, but it's really fucking good. So as I just said, this book is another example of King being the master at taking a small cast, putting them in a small setting, and making it completely gripping. He did it with Cujo, he did it with Misery, and he does it with Gerald's Game. You will feel just as chained to those bedposts as Jessie is. Now I said this was about King showing he was more than just horror, but that's not to say he doesn't include some scary shit in this book. Scary shit number one, the Space Cowboy. Is he just a weird, shadowy figure that happens to be in the corner of Jessie's room because she's slowly going crazy through thirst and dehydration? Or is he something a bit more solid and real? Well, you'll have to read the book to find out, but either way, he's creepy as fuck and gets under your skin. Scary shit number two, Prince. No, not the little musician who liked purple things, but a very hungry, stray dog who is attracted to Jessie and Gerald's house, makes his way through an open door, and sniffs out the rotting flesh of Gerald. I mentioned Prince was hungry, right? Scary shit number three, Jessie's horrific childhood trauma. Sexual assault at the hands of her dad, for want of a better phrase, while they are both sat watching the eclipse. Now what Jessie's dad does to her is bad enough, but the way he manipulates and gaslights her afterwards is just fucking horrific. So given the situation, a lot of this one takes place in Jessie's head, and King manages to do that brilliantly by introducing lots of different voices and different characters for different versions of Jessie. We've got the good wife, who tries to just put Jessie in her place and reassure her that rescue will definitely come and she shouldn't try and do anything herself. We've got Pumpkin, the 10-year-old version of Jessie, whose trauma we have to process throughout this book. We also meet other people in Jessie's head, a former roommate from college and a former therapist, both of whom Jessie knew in real life but dropped when they got dangerously close to finding out what happened to her as a child. It sounds a bit clunky, but I actually think King executes it really, really well, and it makes the storytelling just excellent. It's worth spending a couple of reasons celebrating the ingenuity and creativity of Jessie in getting out of her pretty terrible situation. First of all, the way she goes about making a straw for herself and getting hold of a glass of water so she can have a drink is a triumph. Second, her actual escape is also a triumph. A triumph that will want to make you vomit. No, seriously, that scene? Fuck. Let's go back to Prince for a moment. No, not the little musician who liked purple things, the dog. King writes some of this book from the point of view of Prince, just like he does with Cujo and Kojak in some of his other novels. Let's just accept it now. King is a master when it comes to writing from the point of view of a dog. Hands up, who else wants a whole novel written from the point of view of a dog? Just make sure the dog doesn't die, okay, Steve? So the ending of this book kind of divides the constant reader community. I don't hate it. I reckon perhaps the story would be stronger without it, but I can see why it's there and what loose ends it ties off. So it does have some value. I get that. As for you, well, you're just going to have to read this thing and decide for yourself. So one thing that is interesting in the ending is how Gerald's law firm, who he worked for, helps Jessie to cover up their sexy game gone wrong. On the face of it, it's to spare her embarrassment, but really it's to spare the company embarrassment. Even after everything she's gone through in this book and all of the trauma she's had to process, she still kind of ends up having her path dictated to her by a bunch of men. However, there is another part of the ending that does kind of justify it being there, and that is ultimately Jessie taking back control by writing to one of those lost people in her head, the former college roommate, and telling that roommate exactly what actually happened. When she posts that letter, she's finally able to get to sleep without nightmares, and at that point she has her hands back on the steering wheel of her life. It's vital in her recovery. It's a bit on the nose, but kind of leaves you feeling pretty good about things. Can we just go back to Jessie's escape again? So reviews at the time of this one were pretty mixed and kind of reflect how well the book charted. The hardback went into number 1 and spent 9 weeks there, but the paperback only made it to number 5, which is quite unusual for King. But the quality of this one shines on. It's still really hard hitting today, and of course it spawned the quite fantastic, some would have said impossible adaptation that is on Netflix, directed by Mike Flanagan. Seriously, probably top 5 all-time best King adaptations. Definitely check it out. Finally, it's worth reading this one just because it underlines once again what a fucking terrific writer Stephen King is. Just a few months before this, he was throwing out a chunky popcorn novel that was a big satire, taking a massive swipe at the 1980s and being a bit of a black comedy at the same time. It was silly, it was over the top, it was fun. And then he follows it up with this, a dark, suspenseful, harrowing and introspective novel that really just hooks you in from the start. I've already said on this channel I'm a bit of a mark for 90s King, and I think it's Gerald's Game where he really starts moving up the gears and clicking into action. So there we go, 19 reasons to read Gerald's Game by Stephen King. Do let me know what you think of this one and its ending in the comments below. Now if you enjoyed this kind of thing, well, go and check out the rest of my channel. There's videos for loads more of Stephen King's books, 19 reasons to read each one, and a few specials thrown in as well. That, well, they might not be the best videos, but they'll definitely kill some time if you're looking to do just that. If you don't hate the videos, feel free to subscribe as well, and then you won't miss any in the future. And if you want to come and say hi on Instagram, I'm at Dave Musson. Until next time, do take care, and seriously, can somebody let me out of these now, please? Hello? Hello? Oh, fuck.